Recorded live from the Metaverse. Welcome to the Hitchhiker's Guide to NFTs, Episode 4. No, do not adjust your screens. I am not John Chaney, your regular host. Filling in for John Chaney, who is on vacation, I am Jeremy Witt, Chief Strategy Officer here at Seek. Without further ado, let's get into Episode 4. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Having said that, I'm sure I'll botch one or two of these definitions. So please feel free to chime in the comments either during this episode or later if you're watching it on demand. And we'll try to issue corrections and clarifications as they become necessary. So let's get to our first term. One of one. So what does that mean? That's the whole concept of uniqueness. And non-fungible tokens, non-fungible means unique. And so you'll see this one of one in the NFT space a lot. All it means is a unique one of one NFT token. But then you have one of one of X. And so what is that? Well, one of one of X is a collection of unique NFTs. And so if you can imagine, each NFT is unique itself, but it is part of a collection. And so this all started back with CryptoPunks when they dropped 10,000 one of one NFTs. And thus the craze of NFTs has never been the same. One of one of X, collection of unique NFTs. And then there's Airdrop. No, this is not your being hijacked with your iPhone. This Airdrop is basically getting free stuff. It's the concept of people being able to, without really any effort from you, drop cryptocurrency NFTs into your crypto wallet. And there's all kinds of reasons why people do this. Sometimes they do it for marketing. Sometimes they just do it to increase adoption. And sometimes they just do it for appreciation. And then, of course, there's all kinds of other reasons with utility tickets and things of that nature. Some people are worried about airdropping, saying, well, hold a second. What if somebody sends me something I don't like? There's certainly those types of concerns. One of the things that we try to coach people on is it's just like email. You get emails. Sometimes they're spam. Sometimes they're phishing attacks and things of that nature, but you've grown used to it. You know how to delete spam and you know how to avoid phishing attacks, but you get a lot of really important emails, sometimes entertaining, sometimes productive. Same thing with airdrop. AMA, ask me anything. So certainly in the comments below, AMA. Yeah, so this is a general concept with the communities in the NFT world. Ask me anything is just a really good way for community members, often becoming members through buying an NFT for that community, to ask the proprietor of that community or the celebrity or the talent anything they want. It really creates a great connection. So that's ask me anything. Aping, uneducated buying. And so it comes from, of course, the Apes Together Strong from Planet of the Apes movie fame. But basically, if someone is aping, they're just following along without really knowing what they're doing. And of course, blockchain, shareable, immutable ledger. So we could go on an entire series of webinars, let alone this very brief and certainly unjustified short definition. But really, at the end of the day, it's a really inefficient database, but it has some amazing qualities that make it very disruptive, being immutable, being trustless, distributed in various other different types of things. But blockchain is, of course, the underlying technology around everything in NFTs and a large part of the metaverse. Bots. Bots are automated software. There are bots that do really productive things, batch processing and those different types of things. And then there are bots that do nefarious things. And there are bots that do just things behind the scenes. It's automated software that can be controlled autonomously, or it can be controlled with something called command and control, which sounds scary, but not really. But that's what a bot is, automated software. Burn. Do you feel the burn? So burning an NFT, what is that? Well, it's really just destroying an NFT. But is it really? Actually, it's not. Burning an NFT just removes it from circulation. And how you do that? Well, there's multiple ways you can do it. Probably the easiest way is to transfer the NFT to a verifiable, inaccessible wallet. And probably the most popular inaccessible wallet is something called the null wallet. And for you non-techies out there, that's a wallet address of 0x followed by a bunch of zeros. That's an inaccessible wallet. So why would you ever burn an NFT? Well, you burn it to increase demand, you burn it to decrease supply, and you burn it to increase scarcity. These are all basic supply and demand concepts. But you also do, there's several other reasons why you might burn an NFT. One reason is that you may want to upgrade the contract. And so what you'll do is you'll ask your constituency who's bought those NFTs, hey, if you burn your NFT that you bought from this drop, will Airdrop or will give you another NFT that has an upgraded contract with all of these additional benefits. There's good reasons and there's some productive reasons, and then there's I just want to get rid of something that's cluttering up my wallet. Cryptocurrency, and that's of course the magic. That's the lifeblood of all of this, the entire NFT world. It's decentralized digital currency based on blockchain technology. And again, another topic that we could go on with an entire web series, so we won't belabor the point. There's tons of resources online for cryptocurrency. So what's a DAO? Decentralized autonomous organization. Well, maybe the best way to describe that is, what's the opposite of a DAO? Well, the opposite of a DAO is a centralized organization, something we call either a government or an executive body in a company. But a DAO is really a unique concept. And what it does is it decentralizes governance. Of course, you vote through cryptocurrency. So we got a little graphic on here that shows a bunch of DAOs here. There's a lot. So this is just a new space that's coming up. Keep your eye on this. This is going to be interesting. I've told a lot of people have asked me about DAOs. What are DAOs? What are they good for? And I've said, well, they're good for a lot of different things, but really until the first country, I think there's close to 200 countries on the planet, until the first country throws out their government and replaces it with a DAO, that's going to be a watershed moment. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if it does, hang on to your seat. That's going to be interesting. So what's a DApp? And now a DApp is a decentralized application. And so Jeremy, didn't you say that blockchain was just a really inefficient database? Why on earth would you ever put an application on a really inefficient database? Well, you wouldn't put the whole application, hopefully, unless it's a very, very rudimentary application, but at least partially running on the blockchain. And the part that you want running on the blockchain is the part of your application that has a trustless requirement. That decentralized or trustless requirement is really kind of the key of that. So you can have a DApp that has hooks, and there's these things called oracles that shoot information back and forth from off-chain to on-chain and things of that nature. But a DApp is a decentralized application that is at least partially run on the blockchain. Now, there are, of course, purists out there that will say, well, if it's not 100% on-chain, it's not a DApp. And, technically that's correct. But just out of practicality, that's really not the case. DeFi, probably the most disruptive concept of blockchain, NFTs, and the whole rigmarole. Decentralized finance is what that stands for. And lots of ways you could define it. I think one of the easiest ways is that only you control your money. Well, what does that mean? I mean, if nobody else can use my credit card if I don't lose it, and no one else can write checks on. Well, hold on a second. Isn't that bank controlling the bank hours? Isn't that bank controlling which credit cards can go with it? Isn't that bank controlling the fees that go along with that? And the bank controls all kinds of things with your money, not just that bank, but then there's a Federal Reserve, and then there's central banks, and then there's international trade of currency across borders and things. And there's a lot of people that control a lot of things about your fiat currency money. But in a DeFi or decentralized finance situation, only you control your money. And that is disruptive in so many ways. Discord. So yeah, Discord, of course, originally started as a really productive tool and a fun tool for the gaming industry. And, with their headsets, being able to chat back and forth. And it's just grown with so many different features that's distributed, firing up your own server and creating all these different little communities. And it's really become a home for the NFT community. And so right now, Discord, in probably almost every measure that you can think of, is the NFT and gaming social platform of choice right now. But that's probably going to get diluted a little bit as other platforms come out and new communities are developed. But right now, Discord's the king. Diamond hands. So this, of course, didn't originally start with NFTs, but it's really taken off in the last couple of years with the popularity of NFTs. Not knowing when to fold them. Diamond hands is that iron grip that puts so much pressure on that lump of coal that it turns into a diamond. Diamond hands is someone who will hold on to that NFT. If it drops 90%, then drops another 90% to be 1% of its original value. Diamond hand holder of that NFT will hold it forever. Dior, do your own research. So you may be talking with somebody, hey, I just heard about this drop. The reveal's next week. But Dior, and of course that means I just gave you some information. I'd like you to look into it, but do your own research. So it's a little bit of responsibility. Docs, share or publish revealing or incriminating information. And so this is a lot whenever you're talking about someone who basically has a loud mouth, or in the Twitterverse or the Discordverse has a loud tweet. Revealing information, whether it's exposing frauds, whether it's dumping documentation. I think the biggest dox of all was, Snowden's drop of who knows how many hundreds of thousands of documents. That's the ultimate dox. But dox is doxing. If you dox someone, you're publishing, revealing, or incriminating information. So what's a drop? Releasing an NFT project to the public in a marketplace. So you can create the art, you can then mint the art, then you have to list it in a marketplace, and that's the drop. So there's really kind of three major steps whenever you're working with NFTs. Actually, the creation part, the minting part, and then the drop in a marketplace. EIP, Ethereum Improvement Proposal. This is a little technical, so I won't spend too much time on this, but anytime, it's really talking about the vast changing and the dynamic scenario that we live in right now with blockchain and NFTs. It's changing so fast, and Ethereum brilliantly has come up with kind of a methodology to make updates to it. Because it's decentralized, they have kind of this public way of proposing improvements. And so they call it EIP. So you'll see EIP 20, EIP 721, EIP 2981. These are all numbers in a series of improvement proposals. Those EIPs, once they're vetted, they become ERCs. And what's ERC? Well, Ethereum request for comment. So those of you in government fodder will know the RFC, which is request for comments. So it's actually should be ERFC. But of course, they wanted to keep it with the TLA three-letter acronym. So they called it ERC. But it stands for Ethereum request for comment. It's exactly like the government RFCs. And what that does is it has a published proposal that could be live, and there's just commenting on it. And that ERC is eventually what gets approved. So I've listed, three pretty common ERCs. ERC20, of course, the most common token on the Ethereum network. ERC 721. Oh, that's the one-of-one NFTs. Remember from slide one. And then I'm introducing another very techie ERC 1155. That's just bulk minting. ERC 721 mints a token. And then ERC 1155 is the concept of bulk minting. Well, what's that important for? Well, it's because of gas fees and transaction costs and effort and those different types of things. Fiat, let it be. Of course, the Latin interpretation of fiat is let it be done. So what is fiat currency? Well, actually, before I believe it was Richard Nixon, the United States was on the gold standard, and it did not have fiat currency. It had gold-backed Federal Reserve notes. And then in the early 70s, the brilliance of Nixon, some people call it the folly. Whether it was folly or brilliance, we ended up with fiat currency. And what that means is that a sovereign government merely says that this currency has value, and so it does. And that's the let it be done. The government pounds the gavel, and merely by saying that something has value, it has value. Because the paper dollars that you have in the old days, and now the plastic cards that you have in your hand, and the electronic trading that you do, it only has value because everybody believes it has value. And that's the concept of fiat, let it be done. So fiat currency is when a government backs a currency as opposed to being backed by some commodity like gold. So it's a floor. Everybody's talking about floor price, floor sweeping. Yeah, floor. So if you have a collection and you have a drop, the NFTs that are distributed or are minted, the lowest price of all of the NFTs, so all the NFTs have differing prices. The lowest price of the NFTs in that collection is the floor price. And that's actually a trading concept. And it was stolen by the NFT community very appropriately. The floor price, it's just the lowest price of a collection. So, if you go into a neighborhood and there's a bunch of houses in that neighborhood, you may want to know what's the average price of the house, but somebody may want to know what's the cheapest house here. Or if you're in a glass condo in New York City or Dubai, you may want to know what's the cheapest condo in this tower. Well, that's the floor price. Same thing with an NFT. Lowest price in a project. FOMO, hopefully you all know what this is. If you don't, please talk to your teenage daughter. Fear of missing out. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt is also sometimes used as a definition of fake news. And so let's say that someone comes to you and says, oh my goodness, like in today, Russia has been banging some sabers in the Ukraine and things of that nature, and cryptocurrency has taken a hit a little bit. The Dow, the markets have taken a hit. That's a little FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But for the crypto bulls out there that say crypto is the future, NFTs are the future, they're going to call that fake news and say it's just a buying opportunity. Buy the dips. So if someone says FUD in a Discord thread or a Twitter thread, they're kind of making fun of hysteria in the markets. Gas fees. It's almost exactly what you would think if you go on a road trip or something along those lines, and you have to pay for gas to get there. It's payment to the miners for blockchain transactions. The blockchain has to work in some way, shape, or form. There has to be some reward for the enormous investments that miners have to make in order to make the blockchain work. And so gas fees are actually fees paid to the network in order to basically validate the transactions that go onto any modern blockchain. So it's payment to the miners for making the blockchain work. Brilliant strategy. Again, another very disruptive concept of the blockchain in this distributed trustless environment. GMI, gonna make it. So I like this one, not just in NFTs. This is every entrepreneur out there, anybody with aspirational hopes, ending your tweet or comment or blog with GMI. It's just an inspirational battle cry saying that got a great idea and we're going to make it. Hash. Yeah, so there's a lot of these. I guess for your old school people, you probably know corned beef hash. It's not that. And for some of you other people out there in the Instagram world, you know, hashtags. No, that's the tic-tac-toe symbol. Hash in computer programming, computer science, it's a seemingly random fixed link alphanumeric string. What is that? First of all, and what's a string? A string, I thought I had a ball of twine as this piece of string. No, no, no. So a string is another kind of techie term, and it's just a series of letters and numbers in a human readable format. That's a character string. So then you might want to know what's a character. We're going to drill down into a rabbit hole, but a hash is a fixed length, seemingly random alphanumeric series of letters and numbers, and it's algorithmically generated using cryptography, which is a fundamental underpinning of the blockchain. So all you really need to know is that when people are talking about a hash, look for a long string of letters and numbers that look like gibberish. That's probably what they're talking about. The other thing you need to know is that all the blockchain data is stored as hashes. HODL, love it, love it. I was actually watching CNBC back in, I was watching Melissa and Lee on Fast Money back in 2013, whenever this came across, and it was so funny. I had an inkling of what it meant from the very beginning, and it turns out I was right. So in Game of Kyubi, obviously fat fingered hold. Bitcoin had just dropped, I believe, 40 plus percent. It's just huge, wildly volatile. And then posted the infamous tweet, I am holding, except of course, fat fingered it and it ended up being hodling. so it's entered pop culture fame. Of course, ever since then, people have redefined it to mean hold on for dear life, which is actually really good. I bet you wish that he came up with that originally, but that's literally what it means. But of course, are you a hodler? Are you hodling? Or do you hodl? All of those just means they're holding versus selling. IRL, probably my favorite one on this entire list, in real life, because it's real. Yeah, there's so many things we talk about that are virtual. Keeping perspective that there's real world impacts in the crypto world. If you get something stolen or hacked in the crypto world, if you make a connection and a relationship that has real world benefit, whether it's with the brand, with the product, or with the person. IRL, in real life. And IPFS has probably the coolest name on this entire list. Interplanetary file system. I just like saying that. But yeah, what is that? Well, it's a peer-to-peer, P2P for you techies out there, network for storing data on a distributed, decentralized file system. And why would that be important? And why do they call it interplanetary? Well, I mean, conceivably, I don't know if they've bounced a node off of the moon yet, but I was in a thread, I don't know, a few months back, and they were saying that someone was trying to truly make it interplanetary by bouncing a IPFS node off the moon in some way, shape, or form. I don't even know if that's actually technically possible right now, but this is a really fascinating concept on here. And so it's using distributed trustless architectures to store stuff, and not only store stuff, but make it so that you can distribute this throughout the solar system, throughout the galaxy. And if you had a fast enough network, maybe throughout the universe. Of course, you'd have to probably do something with faster than light communications travel or something along those lines. But IPFS, keep your eyes on this one. I have no doubt that this will not be the final in this category. Kind of like vacuum tubes were transformational, but I don't know a single computer today that uses vacuum tubes. But the concept of a switchable gate happens trillions of times every millisecond in your computer, which is exactly the same thing that a vacuum tube did. And so I'm kind of making the analogy that IPFS is the vacuum tube, and I can't wait to see the nanotechnology IPFS in the future that truly is interplanetary and allows us to distribute data regardless of what happens to our good old home planet Earth. KOL, key opinion leader. This has actually been used for, I don't know, as long as I've been in professional career. But it's really important in new emerging technologies such as the blockchain, especially NFTs. There's so much to learn. There's so much happening in a vastly changing ecosystem here that identifying KOLs, key opinion leaders, searching them out, talking with them is vitally important. So when someone's looking for a KOL or they're talking about someone is a KOL, might want to perk up. Maybe somebody that you can follow or listen to. And Larva Labs, the guys that started it all. Of course, they didn't start it all, but an argument could be made that they popularized it all with CryptoPunks Drop, that vast collection of 10,000 CryptoPunks. Congratulations to all of you that own a CryptoPunk. You've got something that could be something of pride for posterity. But LL, if you hear it, LL, not to be confused with Ladies Love Cool James in Brooklyn lore. This LL is Lava Labs. And of course, LFG, Battle Cry, Let's Effing Go, looks rare. So this is something I commend whoever got the domain name for this. But looks rare. Marketplace, pricing and things of that nature. You see it all the time. There's that JPEG that's worth some ungodly amount of money. So in the NFT world, looks rare is often used as kind of a point of sarcasm. So be careful if you hear somebody talking about an NFT and they put a ... looks rare, exclamation point. It may be sarcasm. McDonald's, another one of my faves. So after you do something or after you attend an event or hear a pitch, a lot of times you'll hear some insiders say, yeah, it might be McDonald's. And all that means is that it's all or nothing. So if someone talks about McDonald's, they're saying they don't have a backup plan. And if it doesn't work, they're going to be flipping burgers at McDonald's. They're not going to make it, GMI. Metadata. Oh my goodness, there's so much about this. Metadata has been around for decades. It's taken very important meetings in NFT world and then completely hijacked by the likes of Facebook, mind you. Organizations formerly known as Facebook, notwithstanding. Metadata, in very simple terms, it's data about data. That's the technical definition of metadata. In the NFT world, metadata is often referring to data or traits about your NFT, where it's located, what are some characteristics of it. If it's a unique NFT, what are the characteristics that make it unique? Those traits and things of that nature. That's metadata. So then we go to Metaverse. So I've done probably 3 or 4 webinars on just Metaverse, and I won't belabor this point. There's so many resources out there on what this is. I like this definition. It's a social construct leveraging Web3 and blockchain to build a space, experiences, and values. I like the addition of values in a metaverse, in an immersive virtual world. Now, it doesn't have to be VR with headsets and things of that nature. A lot of people, including myself, say that augmented reality experiences are certainly part of the metaverse. I'll go back to the values part. It's interesting. It's an often unspoken concept about a metaverse, but almost every metaverse has its own set of principles and values. And that really kind of defines that metaverse, whereas everything else is fairly similar, using similar technology, similar concepts and things of that nature. But what are the values of that virtual world? We all know the values of the real world. You can't kill people. You can't punch people. You can't steal things. It's often nice to be nice to people. Those are all values of the real world. Don't touch things that are hot, et cetera, et cetera. What are the values of your metaverse? And that, think about that. That'll define a lot about each metaverse. Minting. Well, in the simplest terms, it's creating an NFT for the blockchain. And so obviously this was taken from the concept of minting coins. Minting is creating an NFT on the blockchain. taking that art, digitizing it in some way, shape, or form, or maybe it starts as digital art, and then taking that metadata of that digital art and minting that into the blockchain. That's the concept of minting. Mooning it. No, this doesn't have anything to do with your derriere. This is all talking about the popular phrase, to the moon. And so that's taken on new meaning with NFTs. Well, in NFT world, to the moon has taken a whole new order of magnitude. We're not just talking 50% returns, which would be amazing for a hedge fund. We're not talking about 100 returns, which would be amazing for anybody lucky. We're talking lottery type returns. We're talking cryptocurrencies going from $1 to $10,000. We're talking about NFTs being bought for 50 cents and going to $50 million. That's to the moon. NFA, not financial advice. Conceivably, from a legal perspective, the most important term on this entire presentation. So if anybody does this, they're just trying to be responsible. Technically, without a license, the SEC regulates you're not supposed to sell securities unless you're a licensed dealer broker, investment advisor, financial advisor, et cetera, et cetera. And so a responsible individual that's pitching their NFTs or investment in a drop or whatever, they may end it with NFA. And all they're trying to do is say, Dior. For all of you that are paying attention, do your own research. What they're trying to say is that it's not financial advice. Do your own research. Now we've gotten to the namesake. NFTs, unique digital certificate that conveys the concept of verifiable ownership of an asset in a trustless environment. That's probably a good definition. I'd be more than happy for anybody in the comments to improve on that. So I'll talk about something different while you all try to banter in the comments on what a better definition of NFTs are, but I will talk about what it originally was. So you guys remember earlier the ERC 721, kind of the standard for NFTs today. When it was an EIP, and again, if you're remembering, that's Ethereum Improvement Proposal, EIP 721 first came out, they actually called them deeds. And the five brilliant founders that penned EIP 721 got together and they said, well, you know, these deeds or these EIP 721s can be way more than real estate. People are going to confuse them with just real estate, commercial or residential. We got to come up with a different name. And so in classic computer science fashion, they came up with an extraordinarily techie, geeky name of non-fungible tokens, well, which actually turned out to be brilliant because there's no prior art for sure. And it's become its own word, NFT, kind of like IBM no longer means International Business Machines. It just means IBM. NFTs probably in the near future will no longer mean non-fungible tokens. It'll just mean this concept of ownership. But that's the expansion of a deed to everything that an NFT stands for. But going back to the original concept, an NFT is just the concept of ownership. It's no different than that title deed. That you have the title deed, you can't tear off a corner of that title deed and give it to someone, and now that person owns a fraction of your house. You can't take that title deed and live in it. It's just this, sorry for the redundancy, conceptual concept of ownership. And that's what an NFT is. It's just the concept of verifiable ownership in a trustless environment. So what's an NFT marketplace? Well, let's say that you have ownership. How do you create value? Well, that's what a marketplace does. Buy, sell, and trade NFTs, create demand, and conduct transactions. That's literally the definition of a marketplace. And so an NFT marketplace would simply be where that happens for NFTs. You're creating demand and you're conducting transactions. Noob, another one of my faves, just means rookie. So if someone gives you an answer to a question and then says, comma, noob, they're making fun of you. If you want any self-deprecating humor, say something and then put comma, but I'm a noob. It just means that you're a newbie or a rookie. OG. So this actually comes from I'm gonna go way back here on this one. So this actually comes from the 70s with a gang out of Los Angeles called the Crips. If you were part of the original, I can't remember how many there were, but somebody in the comments will probably put it in there. The original group of Crips in LA. And if you were part of that original gang, you were called an OG, the original gangster. And then, of course, that took wildfire whenever Death Row Records and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, which all you millennials will recognize from the Super Bowl a few weeks ago, they actually popularized OG because they're all Crips. And I don't know if you want to go out to YouTube and watch the Super Bowl halftime show, you'll see Snoop Dogg throwing the C's. Oh, I think I just did a gang sign. I hope I don't get banned from YouTube here. Throwing the C's is original gangster symbol. So what does OG mean in the NFT space? It means a lot of things. I mean, the first thing it could mean is that OG could be someone who's been in the blockchain and cryptocurrency marketplace or category for a long time. And a long time is like multiple years, 5 years, 6 years. You're an OG. Another OG is anybody who is the first ones to buy a drop. You could be the OG of that specific drop, your original gangster. And so there's a lot of terms, but I think really in the NFT space, it really just means someone who has been in the NFT space prior to roughly 2018. Almost anybody, because it was such a nascent concept back then. OG, someone who has been around a long time. So I just got a question in the comments here. What are some examples of some marketplaces? Well, the king of all marketplaces, the OG of marketplaces is, of course, OpenSea. They're the OG marketplace, and there's other ones, Blockto Bay for Dapper Labs. And then OpenSea actually has multiple blockchains that they have marketplaces on, Rarible, Nifty Gateway. There's so many marketplaces out there and more springing up every day, probably every hour. Oracle, we talked about this a little bit before. I wanted to kind of bring this up to people. It's a technical thing that you'll probably never see, but the concept is important for everyone. And it's the Oracle is this concept of exchanging information on-chain versus off-chain. And why is that important? Well, it's kind of the first step of making all of this real, making it useful, connecting to the real world. Remember that IRL word? And so Oracle, just remember that Oracle has something to do with that. Play to earn. Yeah, this is potentially going to be one of the killer apps of the NFT space. Some people say it's already taking off like wildfire. I've been out I've literally been out at nightclubs, and I'll see people huddling over in a corner with their phone, all looking at it. And I go over there, DJs pounding music, everybody's hopping. You can't even talk to each other, but they're all playing this video game on their phone because they're playing to earn. They're losing money by partying. And so they're over in the corner playing these video games. There are literally people in foreign countries. There are literally people in high school all the way to full-grown adults that are playing these games in the metaverse, earning through NFTs, ownership of digital assets, turning that into points or some type of unit of measurement, a medium of exchange in that game, and then converting that to real fiat currency. It's amazing. It's crazy, but it's very exciting. So get into it if you haven't. You may or may not want to get your kids into it because it's very addictive, but P2E, keep your eyes on it. Paper hands is the opposite of diamond hands, not knowing when to hold them. So those of you on Discord, you might see the toilet paper and hands emojis. That's the emoji version of paper hands. All this means is that with the first sign of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, selling your NFTs, selling your cryptocurrency, that's paper hands. PFT, profile picture project. So profile picture project is whenever an NFT drop is used and you connect that to your Twitter account or some other social media accounts as your profile picture. Really interesting. And so when you start seeing these, especially on Twitter, verified accounts, of course, that's a PFP, profile picture project. Probably nothing. This is another fun one in the NFT world, often used ironically. So they'll say something along the lines of Ethereum 2.0 is ready to launch, ... Probably nothing. What they really mean is it's a big deal. Reveal. You'll hear a lot of celebrities talking about that. And I think I'm actually scratching my head because I think that they actually think that it's identical to a product reveal or a brand reveal or something along those lines. But it's actually kind of similar. It's the concept of buying an NFT without knowing what it is. And then it gets revealed either whenever a certain amount of the supply gets minted and purchased, or the entire supply, or just a particular point in time in the future. So you have to buy it before you know what it is. And so it's very much like the old baseball trading cards concept. You buy a pack of cards, you open it up, you throw away the stick of gum, and you flip through the cards to see what you got. That's the reveal. So when reveal, that's not a typo. All you people out there, that's another NFT concept, and it's just shorthand for when, and it's just become popular. So it's when is the reveal. Right-click, save as. I could go on and on and on about this. It's probably the most annoying concept. So I won't belabor the point because I'll probably annoy you guys by being annoyed by it. But it's actually a fundamental misunderstanding of NFTs. People say, why would I buy an NFT? It's an overpriced JPEG. I can right-click and then do a save as, and I now own the NFT that you spent hundreds of thousands, or even hundreds of dollars on. And that's a fundamental misunderstanding. Remember, NFTs are this concept of ownership of a digital asset on a particular blockchain. And that's it. If that blockchain is integrated into that metaverse, it gives you rights. If that NFT has a utility component to its smart contract, that might give you access or rights in the real world. So right click and save as is whenever typically an OG NFT expert is referring to someone who confuses that fundamental concept of thinking that people actually care about the fungible JPEG image instead of really understanding the concept of ownership of the digital asset. Secondary market. This is exactly what you think. It's the concept of reselling. After minting, that's where NFTs can be traded. And that's where you see these amazing skyrocketing to the moon prices. That's the secondary market after the mint. Smart contract, another one of those where we could do an entire series on trustless, self-executing software that execute, enforce, or document specific events and actions based on a coded agreement. At the end of the day, that's really what an NFT is. It's a smart contract. It's computer code. Smart contract is not. I actually had a client tell us that they couldn't move forward with the next meeting because their legal department needed to review the smart contract. And so I had to jump on the phone with him and explain, no. We're going to send you an MSA, which is the contract that they review. The smart contract is computer code, and that's actually part of the project. Kind of a little funny instance, but just Google smart contract. You'll probably get a lot of research. I'm certain that you will. Stablecoin, something super important. It's pegged to fiat currency. Remember, fiat currency is like the US dollar, Deutsche Mark, Japanese yen. Those are actual currencies. Stablecoin is a cryptocurrency that's pegged to a fiat currency such as USDT, USDC. Those are all one-to-one crypto to US dollars. Staking, locking up cryptocurrency to confirm blockchain transactions. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to have to speed through the rest of these. Token, boy, if you don't know what a token is already, remember it's a hash from earlier, but obviously NFT for token. Vaporware, announcing software products before they exist. So something like Ethereum 2's vaporware, it's been announced for 2 years ago, 2 years of vaporware. That's vaporware. Crypto wallet, you all know what that is. That stores your cryptocurrency and digital assets. And really, it's your own bank. It's your own personal bank in the decentralized world. YOLO, you only live once. So I hope you really enjoyed this overview of all of these terms and how they're currently used. Please join us in a couple of weeks for our next episode. And in the meantime, seize the day.